Hi everyone. Well, you ever wonder if your career has you as the hostage or the hero? Well, in my upcoming book, Your Journey to Success, one of the chapters is dedicated to finding that out. This book is really for two people. The person who has that feeling, we've all had that experience of we wake up or we're going to bed and we know that if we did a certain thing in our personal or professional life, things would get better. But when we contemplate it, a feeling comes up. We just don't feel like doing it. In other words, that feeling overpowers any thoughts we might have. So that's the first person. The other person is the person who's read all the success books out there and they still haven't found the answer. Well, this book bridges that gap. And what I talk about, when I did a previous chapter reading on the introduction, I talked about where that feeling comes from because I've never seen a book address that. What that feeling comes from is something I call our worst day cycle. And nobody's immune from this. We all are stuck in this cycle. Well, in this chapter, I'm going to talk about how that shows up in our careers. And throughout the book, I describe how it shows up in every area of our life. But this is where this is focused. So I've condensed the chapter down. It'd be too long to read all of it. But I've condensed it enough that it'll give you an idea for you to be able to look at your own career and see whether you're playing the hostage or the hero. So let's get started. For many of us, the careers we choose are a direct reflection of the trauma we experienced growing up. Whether we know it or not, we've chosen our careers in order to face the trauma which created that worst day cycle. This does not necessarily mean we've chosen the wrong career, although that's possible. The reality is, whichever career we're in currently, it's a gift. It's a passport into that worst day cycle, which is derived from that feeling. And it begins to show us how it's operating in our life. For instance, every realtor I've ever met has had some sort of instability in their home while growing up. Whether they moved around a lot or they moved at an influential time in their childhood, whatever it was, something was unstable at home. So now they're recreating that instability through the process of buying and selling homes. Engineers were told in some fashion that emotions were a problem. So they selected a career where it was devoid of them. People that pursue careers in the military or become police officers or firefighters were stripped of their power so heavily as a child that they now seek power-inducing uniforms and roles to fill that power vacuum. Someone who chooses a career in sales, especially the fast-paced medical or car-type sales, was told either directly or indirectly that they had no worth. So they repeat and relive that reality at the beginning of each day because they have no worth until they sell something. Even when they do sell something, there's no carryover. They start each day back at zero, just like in their worst day cycle. Those in helping professions like myself, or nurses, or doctors, or massage therapists, and anything like that, were made to take care of others in some sort of fashion, so now they do it for a living. Whatever career you're in, just look at the emotional content that career evokes. And that will show you how it ties in to that feeling and the worst day cycle. Now for me, in my case, where all this started was, one piece of it was I had an older brother. He and I fought for power growing up. The problem was he was a lot bigger than I was. So he could literally hold me by my head and just laugh as I swatted at thin air. I also felt I had no voice growing up because when I opened my mouth, my family would generally shout me down. Well, unlike most of my family members, I've just always seen and felt things from an emotional perspective. Both of those situations made me intensely angry. Now, due to my father's childhood trauma, he was very distant and always needed to be right. He wouldn't discuss things. Instead, he stated his thoughts, usually at the TV, about politics and football. Because of my mom's drinking, I had to take on the job of trying to keep her sober and make her happy. With all of this going on, I saw pretty quickly as a kid that if I shut down who I was and tried to become what they wanted, I'd get attention. It worked. I realize now that the reason I gravitated towards being a hockey or goalie in hockey was for several reasons. For starters, once again, my older brother, he demanded I'd get in the net when we played street hockey. I realized real quickly that if I stopped the puck from going in the net, it'd piss him off. Well, I liked that. It was the one and only place, in a sense, I could beat him up. I chose to withstand slap shots that riddled my body with bruises to get power over my brother. It was pure self-victimization, which is part of the worst day cycle. Also, goalies are just like kickers in football. Nobody talks to them. It's almost like they're not human. Think about it. Who'd want to stand in front of a puck coming at you at speeds over 100 miles an hour? Goalies must be weird to want to do that. Well, I always felt like my family thought I was weird. So I relived that feeling by becoming a goalie. On the team, no one talks to a goalie. And you don't sit on the bench with your teammates. You're out on the ice, on an island, completely alone. This position allowed me to relive the chemical cocktail of isolation I felt growing up. Finally, who's to blame when a goal goes in? Me. Who can I yell at? Me. I became a goalie so that I could stand out there on that island all by myself and I could dump all that anger I was never allowed to express on myself. I expressed it that way. It was the only way I knew how. I didn't know that I was reliving my worst day and re-traumatizing myself. I thought I loved hockey. So I pursued more opportunities after high school. During one stretch, while practicing with the Vancouver Canucks, one of the players knew that I was sleeping in parks with my equipment and suitcases. So he invited me to his house for dinner to sleep inside. Well, my emotional need to relive that worst day cycle kept me from accepting his offer. I could not say yes. I can still remember sitting there in the park at night on top of my suitcases and equipment thinking, my sleeping in parks will be a great story when I make it to the NHL. I had turned my self-victimization into self-power. I was doing all of this to myself so I could spin it into something I could manipulate other people with. Another example came as the season ended one year when I was playing in the minor leagues. I can still remember sitting there as the plane was about to take off and I'm looking out the window. And I said to myself, this is the year. You're that good. You're going to make it. Whatever you do, don't get messed up with a woman this summer. 3 weeks later, I was engaged. 4 months later, I went to training camp. The two other goalies were under contract while I was a free agent. One of the goalies that was there ended up playing parts of 6 years in the NHL. The other one had just come off winning the Olympic gold medal, and he ended up playing 14 years in the NHL. The coach pulled me aside and said, Kenny, you're the best goalie we have in camp. But you know how it goes. These two are under contract. I wish I could keep you, but we're going to have to let you go. I had other offers to continue playing, but my fiancée said, I just don't think we'll make it if you keep playing. She didn't tell me not to play, but my abandonment fears from my worst day cycle got the best of me. That was the end of my hockey career. I then spent the next 10 years as a general contractor and custom furniture maker. That same wife thought it would be a good career fit for me. I switched from trying to please my dad with hockey to trying to please her. I was a sole proprietor as well, so most of the time I had the business, I was once again alone. Let me make this perfectly clear. She did nothing wrong. I did this all to myself. I was choosing people and setting up situations to victimize myself and play the victim so I could point the finger at them. None of us were bad people in these dynamics. We just didn't have the information that I'm now sharing in this book. We didn't know what else to do. We were just doing the best we could. In my second marriage, my wife kept talking about how she wanted me to give golf another try. I'd played throughout my life. And after a few years of her efforts to persuade me, I decided to give it a shot. Well, once again, I tried to become what the main person in my life wanted me to be. What it did was leave me once again completely dependent upon someone else emotionally and financially. Plus, it was a solitary pursuit that did what every other job had done. It filled me with anger and self-hatred. When I hit a bad shot, who was to blame? I was. Who could I yell at? Me. Here's something really important to note about all of this. I am by no means suggesting that you quit your job because you're re-traumatizing yourself. It's possible you are, but that's not the point. Whichever one it is, go ahead and ask yourself, if whatever your career is it keeping you in your cycle, keeping you repeating it? If so, is there a way out? Here's the good news. Even if it's keeping you in your worst day cycle, there's a gift in it. It can give you valuable insights into how you're reliving that cycle through this career. It can open doors and answers you haven't been willing or able to find as of yet. See, each time we repeat our trauma, we peel back another layer that reveals how we're trying to gain the power back that we lost as a kid. And we gain a better understanding of that original trauma and how to overcome it. Look at what I do today. I'm a coach, a professional speaker, and an author. I'm once again totally repeating the trauma, but in this career, I'm also reconciling it. For the first time in my life, I've selected this career. I chose it for myself. I did not pick this career to please anyone else. As a kid, remember, I never felt I could speak. I always felt that my thoughts and belief systems were shunned by my father and my family. Well, now, as a speaker, people come to me as an expert. I still stand on a stage separated, still alone, but at least I'm being heard. As a kid, I had to sit and listen to my parents' thoughts and feelings. I'm still reliving that same dynamic as I sit there and listen to my clients in my office. While in one sense, nothing has changed, in another sense, everything has. The difference is that now people actually pay me to hear my thoughts and feelings. I've reconciled my worst day cycle. My career is no longer holding me hostage. It's setting me up to be my own hero. I finally have figured out how to do that. Now, there's a little bit of glimpse into that chapter. So the point in this is, for whatever your career is, look at the emotional content of it. What does it evoke? How does that tie in to that feeling that comes up that keeps you from what you want? How does it tie into the worst day cycle? If you're unaware of it, you can learn more about it in the book. But we all choose our careers, our hobbies, everything in our life to try and overcome that feeling. Your career is a window into how you're trying to do that. The book and the rest of the explanation will show you exactly how to do that. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. If you're interested to learn more about it, you can go to my website, www.coachkennyweiss.com. And if you ever have any questions, by all means, just send them to me. All right, have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.